Oh, I'm going to put my phone on.
We're live, so let's just make sure. Let me test out all this. I'm in the picture. That's good.
I'm hot.
Dude, I'm sweating. I feel you. All right, let's just test this out.
Silent mode.
Everybody feels
I'm
good.
going on the diet again.
Dude, I'm telling you, this thing makes you look a lot thicker than you actually are, and I hate it.
We need to say that as soon as we're live.
We're live.
Like, Dennis is not really this fat.
That's good. Talk into the mic a little bit.
Talk into the mic.
Jason, talking to the mic.
Don't tell me what to do.
Dennis is not really this fat.
There we go. All right, we're good. We're good. All right. Let me get all set. Oh, wait, I don't want to close this.
If they want to watch, they got to watch from.
It's going to be
YouTube.
recorded also.
Yeah, it's going to be recorded, so I'm going to post this probably later tonight. Get that all situated. Let's get this.
Doing that.
Little
Going
bit
down here.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Bang.
All right, I guess we do. All right, I'd like to welcome my guests, Jason Shu and Dennis. What was your last name again?
Addesso.
Dennis Addesso. He is is a co-founder?
Co-founder.
Co-founder of MA22.
Ma Deuce Deuce.
Ma Deuce Deuce. So what is? I'm sorry, I'm reading off the shirt. So
Right.
what is the origin of that name?
So the name is derived from the 50 caliber machine gun. In the military, everything's M something. In the 50 caliber machine gun, the Browning 50 cal is a M2, Browning M2, and the Marines called it the Ma Deuce. So we took Ma Deuce and incorporated the scariest number in America today is 22. 22 veterans today commit suicide.
Really?
So we put that together, and we're trying to do everything we can to alleviate combat stress, provide some camaraderie, and we do it in many different avenues, between baseball games, workouts. We do a ruck. We go to hockey games.
That's the
There's
shirt you're wearing right there.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I got this at the golf outing.
You want to tell them what the ruck is all about?
Operation Rucket. So that's something that we started our first year. We actually did it with Warhorse Scuba. And John Gagnon was like, "Oh, let's go walk 22 miles." And I was like, "I can't even walk 2 miles. Let's try 22K." So it ended up being 13.6 miles. We walked from Brick to Seaside Heights in the middle of July. Everyone was sunburned on one side of their face, and we had a great time. We had about, I want to say there was roughly 115, 150 people or something like that
Kids,
did it.
Oh, wow.
families,
We had Black Hawks flying over, and
So this is like a huge
cops.
Yeah,
leaving
wow.
the road
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's organized. It wasn't just a bunch of us just.
I mean, you're going over to Seaside Bridge and all, right?
No, we went from the small bridge in Brick, Manalokin.
Right. So you have escorts, you have families going there. It's to raise money. Everyone that joins and donates a little money or.
Yeah, the first year was kind of just a test. The second year we took it as our own, and it blew up.
And a ruck is what they call a rucksack.
We wear 22 pounds. 22 pounds as we're walking.
Kids with backpacks.
You pay $22 to sign up. Everything's 22 with us.
So that number is basically like the big number.
Yeah,
in that
we
group.
try and hammer that number home.
Oh wow!
If you think about it, 22 veterans.
Make sure the mic's there. I was just noticing. Yeah. It's weird. Trust me.
Testing.
There you go. There you go.
22 veterans a day take their lives from PTSD, from different things, suicide, overdoses, everything else is accounted for that, and that's one's too many, and 22 is just.
Yeah, I shared on another. I was on an interview Friday night with Portraits of the Jersey Shore. If anyone's listening, go check that guy out. Greg is an awesome dude. But if America, there's some states in America that don't even classify veteran suicides versus regular suicide. So, like in Texas, if you commit suicide, you don't know if it was a veteran or not. Or if I get wasted and I commit suicide, it's an alcohol-related incident. If I need to find high-stress environments, and I get a motorcycle and drive 200 miles an hour and die, that's a vehicular accident. Or if
now it's probably all COVID, but whatever.
And if I overdose on painkillers that the VA gave me for years and years and years, and now I have a habit and they cut me off, now I'm going to the streets and buying Suboxone or heroin or wherever else, and I overdose. It's an overdose, not a suicide. But you really want to factor in that number. 22 is more or less the stigma. The VA is going to be like, well, it's 14 a day now. Like, 14 is still too many.
Still a lot. I mean,
And what a lot of people don't know is he touched on the opioids and that epidemic or pandemic that we had. I mean, again, the VA has done a lot of good, but it's a lot of bureaucratic bullshit and red tape. And I mean, I still use the VA for what it's worth, but they didn't learn their lessons from our past sins in Vietnam and everything else, and they're doing a lot better now. Yeah, I mean, our last president did a lot for the VA and changes that are now getting changed back in some facets and capacities or whatever. Little things like going to your own doctor where there was waiting lines, 30, 60, a year to get checked out in some states. And then people are offing themselves because they didn't get visits, they didn't get appointments, they're in pain.
They're offering themselves in the parking lots.
In the parking lot.
Of the VA?
And we live right 10 minutes from the VA.
Yeah, that's what my grandpa used to go there when he was sick, and they didn't. Listen, I don't really know too much about what was going on with him, but I know that the care wasn't, completely up there.
And again, we're not bashing the VA by any
No.
chance.
I'm not anti-VA, but I think there's a lot of people that currently work with the VA that should be on the unemployment line.
Yeah.
However, there are quite a few people that I can personally go to and be like, hey, I need to get this done now for this Marine or this veteran or even me myself. Yeah. It took me a long time to actually be reluctant enough to take these pills that the VA just wants to keep shoving here. Take these and call us in 6 months. Maybe that they may have worked for earlier generations. I think we're a more, I guess you could say, woke generation where we don't think that having to take pills to be Dennis and Jason is a necessity. But at some point, like me personally, I felt I don't have a choice anymore. I was on a bad path. And they do make me feel better, But I had to actually take so many different kinds to finally figure out, well, these are the ones that don't make me feel like a freaking zombie. Despite what this camera is saying, like I took Prozac, and I gained a lot of weight on Prozac.
Yeah,
I used to be
interject on what he's touching on is when I went through my PTSD programs right up the road, the 60-day residential treatments and stuff like that. There, when I was diagnosed. At that time, it was what? My daughter's 11, 12. So it was about 5, 7, 8 years ago when I got diagnosed and went through those programs and stuff like that. They literally were sedating people. They would put me on 13, 14 different medications just to figure. It's a trial and error thing, just like everyone knows about medication, and you're familiar with that.
I was about to say.
I was on 13, 14. I blew up to 299 pounds.
Yeah.
My Marines bust my bananas and say, why don't you just shove another cheeseburger in your mouth and be 300, go big or go home.
Yeah.
But everyone's different. And they wanted to sedate you and just make sure that you didn't off yourself, you didn't off anyone else, you didn't punch any nurses, you didn't punch anyone else, you didn't get mad at people, you were sedated, and that's not a way to go through life. I was offered 100% disability from the VA, but I had to sign away that I can only make this amount of money for the rest of my life. And I said, no, I'm trying to get better. I'm not trying to be a hermit.
So it seems like they, again, we're trying to state we're not anti-VA at all, but it seems
they're
like
doing so much better than what they did.
They're trying to, lessen the suicide rate, but also it's not up to par because, like you said, I mean, you're offering a set amount of money, and there are some people
it's
who
like $30-something thousand, $20-something thousand
I mean,
for the rest of your life. And again, you can survive off of that.
But it's also
that's where
you can't.
Dennis and my deuce may have saved my life.
Yeah.
I was in a bad spot, and he's a young organization, Jersey homegrown, Towns River. My ex actually found them on Facebook, and the baseball games that we're talking about, she mentioned to me, why don't we take the family out? I contacted this group, and I'm like, what the fuck did you do? I don't need help. I'm good. I'll figure it out. And next thing you know, I'm at a baseball game. Was Nicholas born then? No.
I don't think so.
No, it was me, her, and Olivia, and we went to the baseball game, and that's a big part of what they do. And I'm actually heading to one right after this.
Yeah.
With one of my couple Marines and stuff like that. It's an outreach where if you don't want to talk, you don't talk. We have 8 seats. Companies sponsor them.
Yeah, so the Blue Claws effort is ma22.org/Blue Claws. Any veteran that wants to go, they can go there and sign up for a game. But we have 6 seats this year, and it's all sponsored by some very, very generous people in our community. They pay for our seats. They're $650 a piece, and we have 6 this year. And I sold those 6 in like a day. You know, that was the fastest I've ever done it. Like, hey, we use these as an icebreaker. You know, say someone's like, it was like that. His wife contacted us, hey, I need my husband to meet you. And it'd be one thing if I just showed up to his house. I'd probably get my ass kicked. But if we go to a Blue Claws game, you know, who doesn't like to go sit and watch baseball, drink a beer, eat some popcorn, heckle some visiting?
So it's like a neutral field.
Yeah,
where everybody's comfortable.
And it's a more versatile environment though too. One story, my brother Tom and I took a veteran out to dinner one night, and we were talking to this guy, and all of a sudden, like, I asked him about something particular, and the waterworks started. He started crying, and we're like, wow, this is not a good environment to be doing this thing. Because not only is this guy crying in front of us now, it's an ego thing. I don't want this guy to think that he's less of a man because he's crying in front of me. But now everyone else is looking, and we're making this tattered up veteran dude cry, you know. Yeah. So the baseball game just provides enough distractions. You know, you start feeling that tension. There might be a good hit, or like, hey man, let's go take a walk around the park. You know, like
that's exactly what happened the day I showed up. And I contacted him and said, you know, what's going to happen there? You know, I don't want fucking fanfare. I don't want, you know, ma deuce here, fucking put me on. And he's like, dude, you want to talk? We talk. You don't want to talk? We shut up and watch a baseball game. He goes, your kid's gonna be there. You take a walk with them. And that's exactly what happened. And that's when I started trusting other people. I still get therapy from the VA twice a month. My therapist right here in Lyons is actually awesome. They actually pulled him off of therapy, and he does research and development for PTSD and suicide. And I told him, I said, listen, I've been dealing with you for 4 or 5 years. You drop me, I'm fucking done. I don't need you. I'm not going to start with another guy that hasn't been in the war, hasn't been in the military, is in the, you know, just fresh out of school or something like that. I'm not going to do it again.
I feel like you have to have somebody relatable.
I trust him, and every week, and work will attest, I go in my car now, it's even better. That's why I said they're getting better. It's telehealth. I pop my phone open, he sends me a text message, says, log in. I sit there, I go in the parking lot of my job or a job site that I'm at, and we have an hour session, whatever. And but it's about trust.
Yeah.
And it's about admitting, not that you're broken, but that's the biggest thing as a man or a military person, or even a military, I don't want to say men, because there's a lot of good women Marines and women in the military that have suffered, and they have their own plights and they have their own causes, you know, like military rape is a big thing. When I was at the VA right there's a whole floor designated to them.
Really?
And that's PTSD. And what I want to stress also is what PTSD means. It's not just the military. It's not just somebody in the military that went to war. Because there's a lot of people that's seen a lot more shit than me. Trust me.
Yeah.
He's probably seen more shit than me. 1,000 people, 1 million people have seen more shit than me. And it's specific. So PTSD, all it means is that what I take it as, for one split second of your life, you thought you were not going to be here the next second. Car accident, getting pushed on a subway, into train tracks. My father, a couple years ago, collapsed paralyzed in my arms in my driveway from a mass in his spine, and he wouldn't walk for a year and a half. And he finally took a step after I talked to him about PTSD, because he was correlating falling to his mother's death 8 years ago, and she died from asthma or whatever else it was in bed.
Yeah.
But once I talked to him about that, he wasn't in the military. He was on farms his whole life and construction his whole life. But he went to rehab, went to everywhere, and the doctors were like, look, everything's fine now. They removed this thing off of his back and a mass off his spine. But every time they tried to lift him up, they brought machinery in. They brought special equipment, 5 nurses on each side, guys trying to hold him up. And as soon as he stood up, his legs collapsed.
Yeah.
And just real quick, not real quick, but to make a long story longer, my cousin, and that's why I'm going to touch on it, my cousin, well, I call her my cousin, childhood friend that we grew up with, was in a car accident where a girl died in her arms when she was 18 years old. She's 40-something years old now, 50 maybe. And she had to live with that. Every single one of her spinal vertebrae is fused. She still bleeds little shards of glass. And we started talking about PTSD in my hospital room, and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, you have PTSD, Dad? And he's like, what? I don't know. I just want to get up. I want to play with the grandkids. I want to play with Olivia and Nick. I said, you're scared of dying. Because you think when you stand up And something like that, the brain is so powerful that something like that, at a 70-something-year-old guy that got hit on his motorcycle 10 years ago and survived that, airlifted out, that his brain sort of, the first session after his operation, post-op, we were at the doctor's, and the nurse came in and said, let me hear your family history. And he's like, my father died of cancer in Argentina years ago. Well, okay, your mother? Well, she died about 8 years ago. Well, what'd she die from? Well, she fell. And I never fucking realized it until that day in the hospital with my cousin. And I'm like, Dad, and he looked at me. I'm like, Dad, she didn't die from falling. I go, what was it? Lungs, fluid in the lungs or whatever. And my old man, which we bet against each other, who's never going to cry in my life.
Yeah.
Shed a tear and says, I don't remember, Jace.
So that's got to be
let it go. And then at the hospital, when my cousin tells me that, I'm like, holy shit. I go, you're scared of being grandma.
So that's got to be a hard thing to admit in general with even being a soldier is PTSD. Right. Now, is that something that's hard to come to terms with?
Yeah, no. It really comes down to the trust. You know, once I know a veteran's going to be able to trust me and open up, you know, I find the biggest lie I ever said was I'm fine. You know, like, and you know, Jason was hitting it a little earlier. He thought other people deserved more therapy or whatever. No man's story diminishes another. You know, there's incidences that I experienced when I went to an organization called Operation Restored Warrior. I was having a tough time because once I got there, I was meeting all these other guys that were also screwed up, but they saw a lot more carnage than I did. And I remember walking outside and being like, God, if you don't send me a sign right now, I'm leaving. You know, like, I don't belong here. I just had this, this, and this. And I turned around and there's, you know, Command Sergeant Major Chris Fields. You know, the guy's well known in the military. And he's like, you look like you're struggling with something. And I said, yeah, I don't think I belong here. And he said, you know, no man's story diminishes another. Just because I experience a different combat than you doesn't mean that you're not reacting to your experiences the same way that I am. PTSD is not prejudice. We have a lot of people that come and hang out with us that have veteran friends, but you know, we've had a few people that come over that have had sexual assaults, car accidents, and stuff like that. And the way we find these outlets to help alleviate that stress works the same way for them. So it's not so much that everything Modus Deuce does is only working for veterans. You know, if someone else came out there and took our blueprint and used it for sexual assaulted civilians, it would work the same way. You know, it's more or less. I've been coining this thing. You know, you think of a wheel, and if I want to make a wheel with all the spokes, and to make that wheel go, it's my restoration. When was the last time you ever saw a rim with one spoke? It's not going to work. You need many spokes. So one spoke's going to be my faith. One spoke's going to be me working out. One spoke is me going fishing, going to my daughter's soccer games, going out to dinner with my wife, talking about it, coming on podcasts, telling my story. All these things are all therapeutic. Yeah. And we have to equally apply them. If you have one long spoke and one short spoke, that rim's going to be compromised in that area. So we have to equally apply all the spokes to make sure your restoration continues on.
Well, I really like that. And we've talked about earlier about medication and stuff like that. And you might not know this about me, but I'm labeled as bipolar 1. So, I mean, I understand the medication. Like you said, you know, all
lack of sleep.
Yeah, all stories are different. I really like that idea of the spokes because one of the things that I struggled with that kind of stuff is like, you don't want to do things, but you know you have to do them in order to function. So I like that with the whole idea of like, if I do this, then you're going to start going. Then you're
there's rewards. I mean, there's therapeutic rewards. Applying everything that you have learned to be the better dentist, I have to apply every single spoke.
Yeah.
If I miss one, something's not going to go right. And if I'm doing one too much, you know, the other one somewhere else is going to lack. You know, when I first co-founded Modus Deuce, it became a distraction from everything else that was going around with me. My wife was like, you know, all right, so you're not suicidal anymore, but you're not hanging out with us anymore. You know, now you're only helping other vets. You know, I had to pull back the reins a little bit. And on top of that, I made my wife a part of the team too. You know, like where I get a whole bunch of shirts and we have to fold them all. My wife's folding the shirts. She's not doing laundry. She's part of Modus Deuce now. She's sharing my adventure and feels a part of it. So, you know.
And shout out to his wife. She just became a nurse that she always wanted to be. And
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations to her. That's awesome.
And this is Mr. Mom now. So. It's Mr. Mom.
So that's really cool that you founded that. Now, did you start this because? Well, I guess what I was going to ask is, do you think that vets are getting the help that they need now? Like, what can we do more? I guess, or do you think we're in a subpar time?
Again, it's if you're just going to do the VA, no. I just did the VA for 10 years, and I took Prozac and everything else they took. I had to take, and I wasn't feeling like shit every day, but I was a zombie. I was always sleeping. I was still drinking and everything. It wasn't until I went to Operation Restored Warrior, and I grew up in a church, so I always had religion in my life. I went to Operation Restored Warrior, and I had a new, profound spirituality. There's a big difference between just learning religion, which is law. Spirituality is more the act. I can wake up in the morning and, you may call it speaking to the universe and manifesting your day. I call it prayer. It's the same thing. When I know that my wife and I can stand fast and pray, our days are going to be better, and we're not going to be fighting. And, the enemy's not going to be sitting in my ear telling me things that aren't true.
On that note, since I was there in 2003 during the invasion of Iraq, and it's changed dramatically since then.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we didn't learn from our mistakes, and in no way am I comparing our generation to the Vietnam generation or the World War II generation, which was the greatest generation that ever walked this planet. But a lot of units coming out of the combat zone and getting thrown back into the civilian world were handed a piece of paper, and in Kuwait on the way back, handed a piece of paper by the docs, our corpsmen, stuff like that, and our generals and commanding officers, and said, okay, this is what PTSD is, guys. We did a good job. We're going home. We're going to North Carolina, Camp Lejeune. We'll be there for a week, week 2, or whatever, and you go back home and see your families. So read all this list of stuff that PTSD is. As ridiculous as it sounds, but wetting your bed at night, triggers like loud noises, smells, feels, anger, flashbacks, whatever it is. And they're like, we want to help you guys, but if you check them off, you're not going back home. We're going to have you as a med hold, and we're going to take care of you and treat you. But if you check it off, you're not going to see your family for a couple months.
So there's really
nobody
less
really fucking checked anything.
yeah.
Right. Now, like one of my therapists told me, he goes, even NASA, you come back from the moon or wherever, space shuttle, there's decompression time. You go hug your wife, you go hug your kids, you do your fanfare, your news, whatever, and the next hour or 2, you're gone. You're in isolation, trying to regroup, trying to get back into life. I came back, again, didn't think anything. I just thought I was pissed off, angry, drank too much. I was a dry for 10 years. Thought that was my problem. Getting into fights, getting arrested. I thought that was my problem. I drank too much. Everyone said you drink too much. Okay. You're a dick. Okay. You drink too much. So I went to meetings, got my coins, still wasn't diagnosed.
Yeah.
Did not know, whatever. I didn't see much. Nothing really happened. I could deal with it. There's guys out there with thousands of kills, hundreds of kills, whatever. Or seeing their 5 best friends blown up in front of them. I didn't experience that. And the weird thing is that I had my daughter 11 years ago. And that's when my PTSD really kicked in.
Really?
And that's when it was identified by one of my mentors and friends that's no longer with us, and said, dude, you need to go get checked out. And I never realized that. I was the prototypical father, overprotective, pissed off at my ex for going to the park with her, and she's got scraped knees when I come home from work, and I'm like, you can't even take care of the kid, this, that, the other thing. Never vicious or ever physical or anything else like that, but fuck this, I'm going to drink. I'm gonna go to the shed and work on my fucking siding or something like that. Next thing you know, they're like, dude, do you understand what your story is going on? I get waking up in the middle of the night checking if she's breathing when she's a baby. Not being able to hear her screams and stuff like that when I'm holding her and saying, I gotta hand her off. I'm sorry, I love the shit out of you, but I gotta go. I witnessed and held a little girl that died practically in my arms in Iraq, that was blown up, and her arm was blown up off, and her father raced to a bridge and handed her to us, and We literally had to take his dead daughter, and the doc looks at us and says, look, she could be in Germany right now. You're not saving her. Put her in the vehicle, get her out of here. Because no one's allowed to be on this bridge. And that's what you feel. And I never felt that. I just felt pissed off. I felt pissed off. I felt like drinking. I felt like doing what I wanted to do.
Did you feel like you needed distractions?
Absolutely. That's a big thing.
And that's how we deal with it. We suppress it and get distracted, whether it's it's not so much finding outlets at that time. It's drinking. It's infidelity. It's drugs. It's anything. I always say this thing. Sometimes I drank to feel. Sometimes I drank to not feel at all. And we do that. And the characteristic that Jason's talking about is very common among all of us. And we think we're the only ones doing it. I didn't have emotions. I think at times my wife wished I verbally or
the numbness is
abused
what
her.
sucks.
I was just not there.
The numbness is what sucks.
And I was just continuously numb. Waking up. Think about this cup. As much rum and coke I got in there right now. That's about the amount of emotions that I've had for the day. And I wake up in the morning and I look in my closet and I notice that my wife didn't go pick up my dry cleaning. I work in a white collar world, and if I didn't have a nice shirt to wear, what the fuck you mean you didn't pick up my dry cleaning? My house could be burning down, my wife could be cheating on me, and I could have a bullet wound in my arm and I'd be fine. God forbid you don't have my dry cleaning done.
Really?
It's the stupid little petty things that would just set us off.
And I think that has a lot to do with, I was thinking on the way up here, personally, and everything that I'm talking about now is not anyone other than me. I don't know everything about him. I don't know everything about my Marines. I don't know everything about other people. But my personal struggle is, even at work nowadays, I have to catch myself and say, okay, why are you creating your own chaos? Why are you driving 100 miles an hour? You know what I'm saying? Why? And in the military and in combat, and you live on such a heightened alert where you're just hyper vigilant. You're doing this. You're dealing with 1,000 different things. If you're a leader, you're in charge of your men. You need to make sure that they have this, that, the other thing. You're thinking about the future. You're thinking about the past. What can you do better? You're thinking about a million things, and you get thrown back into civilian life. And people are like, la-di-da, oh, I forgot something in aisle 4. Let me go back.
So do you get mad at people for them not? Do you get mad at them not knowing what's really going on?
And it's horrible because they didn't choose to go to the military. They didn't choose to get drafted. Some people, they didn't choose to go to war or be fucked up. All right. So, but me on the other hand, I would be like, you really want me to wait here while you go get your kids bananas? Yeah. And I would get pissed off, and I wouldn't say anything, but who would I take it out on? Myself, my family, my parents, my sister, co-workers, bosses. And they're like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm like, nothing, dude. Can you believe this? And they're like, okay, the lady needed to get milk. Is that really what bothered you? But that mentality is what we need to change in ourselves and adapt and overcome, and with other people's help. At work now, I try to identify it, and I tell people around me, I'm like, listen, keep an eye out for this, because I'm going to try to let things go and try to handle as much as I can in a fucked up environment, and I'll succeed at it because we're good at it. We know how to do that and work in that kind of environment, but we do it to ourselves a lot of times. And that's the thing, is pinpointing your triggers and seeing what's ahead and bringing it back and trying little by little to change things that really aren't working or aren't the best in your life.
So if you could tell right now, with on the topic still of helping out vets, if you could tell somebody who has a family member who is in the war or is a vet, what's one thing that you would say that could help them?
So I see this doctor, Dr. Floric in Brick. He's amazing, referred by the VA, and he put it this way to me once, because I was finding myself getting pissed off by the same little small things. Walking into a Wawa, and you're right ahead of me, and you don't hold the door open. I'm not asking you to open it for me, but just hold it open so I don't have to start all over. We're very mission-oriented. We have a mission, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we can complete that mission. And we're trained that any obstacle is an ambush, and we're going to do everything we can, balls out, rage, to make sure that obstacle is alleviated. It's the petty stuff, and like the one doctor, he said, don't sweat the petty stuff, don't pet the sweaty stuff. The more or less you see yourself overreacting over these small acts, it's more or less your brain telling you that you can't complete that mission. What do you? So what? She didn't get your dry cleaning. Go wear a polo shirt today.
Yeah.
Or pick it up your fucking self.
Yeah, or pick it up yourself. It's just that was part of the mission. I had to make sure I had to get to work that morning, and that's what would happen. But more or less for family members, it's get them in contact with another veteran. There's doctors out there, and when I first started going to the VA, I was talking to this one doctor, and him sitting there at his corduroys and collared shirt. What hurts? I'm not going to open up to you. Your idea of combat is battling the weeds in your rose garden. When I went to Operation Restore Warrior,
picked up late from daycare or something like that.
I was talking to Navy SEALs and command sergeant majors. I was around other vets, so I was able to open up a little bit more to vets, because even then, Jason may only have a part of my story, this vet may have a part of my story, and this vet may have a part of my story. But for the end of the conversation, all three of the guys put together my story. Now I don't feel so alone. I know that. I share this one thing. I was watching Full House once with my girls, and Uncle Bobley died, and I started crying my eyes out. Little Michelle Tanner, is it okay? Uncle Jesse said it's okay to be sad. Is it okay to cry? And I was like, but I was re-feeling emotions at the time. I didn't know how to. Oh, what's that? And when you could share that you're crying watching Full House, another veteran's gonna say, "Well, I cried watching that. I lava you." That makes me cry too. The two little.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That's a great.
I lava you. I was watching it in the movies, and I turned around and there's some other guy tatted up. He's like, these fucking movies. But just the most powerful words I've been saying to veterans lately is just me too. Bring yourself down to their level. Make sure they don't feel that they're the only ones feeling this way.
Yeah. Okay, that's really
and a big
advice,
word.
honestly.
One thing that Dennis always says, and we talked in depth about a couple things, and is drop your pack. That's what he says. That's one of his mottos: is drop your pack. If you haven't dropped your pack.
What's the meaning behind that?
Is the ruck or your pack that you wear in combat, or your combat load, whatever, that heavy ass.
Yeah.
120, 130 pounds sometimes.
We accrue burdens. The minute we get out, we have survivor's guilt. We have alcohol dependency. We have rage, infidelity. We have...
And we still think we're out there. Even if we didn't do anything, or we were a cook or whatever, it doesn't matter what you were, and we still think that we're still acting like we're out there. Again, we do the right things. We're your best friend or your worst enemy. We get pissed off at people for not holding the door, because I guarantee you I hold the door for every single person that walks behind.
Well, it's because you guys were basically bred different,
right?
From
and
the military.
That being said, drop your pack is, dude, you're no longer there. You're back here. You were a civilian once, become a civilian again with honors, as opposed to having to be that hyper vigilant and drop your pack. Number one, and number two, reach out.
Okay.
Even if it's stupid, reach out to somebody and talk to somebody. For me, people are kind of turned off by me because I'm an open book. I'll tell you everything from growing up. And again, a lot of our issues, yes, they're from the military, they're from what we've seen, what we've experienced, but there's deeper rooted things that we never dealt with that brought us there. Maybe the people that don't have issues, that have have tons of more details than we can tell and seen more than us, maybe they dealt with their life before that. So it's not all about military PTSD. It's about getting to the root of the problem. A lot of it is exacerbated and brought to the surface, and we use it not as an excuse, but everyone likes to label it. Oh, he was a Marine. He was in fucking Iraq.
Yeah, they look at you differently.
Yeah, so well, maybe it was something else. So you got to dig deeper, and I call it peeling back the onion. And yeah, okay, once I go here, I'm like, holy cow, maybe this is wrong with me because of the way I was brought up. And again, I was brought up in a great environment, but everyone's got issues and different family flaws or fundamental flaws in themselves that they never addressed. So it's really, for me, it's about being open and talking about it. And I'm so honored and proud of you asking me to come on this, and Dennis also,
Thank you guys, by the way, for coming
But I'll
on.
sit at a bar and I'll tell my
man.
life story to anyone. I don't care if I'm too much the first time you meet me. Fuck, I'm gonna be too much for you the third, fifth, 19th time.
So now that you guys.
Let's talk about fun shit.
No, well, real quick, because I just have a little hot topic issue that I know some people don't like to answer, but nowadays there's a lot. I know it's not new, but nowadays I feel like soldiers come back home, Marines, soldiers in general come back home, and a lot of people now. And listen, I'm not just saying it's my generation, but I don't know if people consider it disrespecting the flag, but. Besides the kneeling and stuff like that, I just think that a lot of people I've been seeing like on Twitter, and all of a sudden I see people like burning the flag, and they're like, well, it's our right. And in my head, it's like, I mean, I had my grandfather was in the military, so he was in the Navy. So like when I think of things like that, I kind of get a little angry myself. I'm wondering what it's like for you guys. I mean, you see this kind of stuff. Do you guys?
I think, and I may have the wrong person, but I think it was Johnny Cash, maybe. Or it might not have been. I forget who it was. It was a great rocker, and he said, I love this country because you have the right. I think it was in a Vietnam era, so it was one of those bands. He said, you have the right to burn the flag in this country, and I also have the right to punch you right in the fucking face. So, to me, it's disrespect. There's laws about burning other flags or showing other flags. If you desecrate somebody else's flag, you can get charged with a hate crime. And I'm just wondering why that hasn't been enforced with our flag. Because, is it a piece of cloth? You're absolutely right. But it stands for something, and it stands for something that I believe in strongly. Yeah. So if I can't do the same to your flag, for whatever right it is, because there's a lot of flags out there. There's a lot of symbols. And if you can't fly a flag because it means so much and it hurts other people, let's call, again, am I for it, against it? I'm not going to say. But if you can't fly the Confederate flag at state capitals and state houses because it offends others, yet you can burn my flag that means so much to me, something's fundamentally wrong with the system. So...
I feel it's more. You can't pick and choose what's freedom of speech. As much as I get angry when I see people with their upside down flag, Facebook profile pictures and burning the flag, it's their right. When the NFL was doing all the crap and people were like, oh, I'm never watching the NFL again. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, so of course, I've been a Kansas City Chiefs fan since like third grade.
Dolphins.
And we're
Giants.
finally good, and football's my outlet. I pride myself on being able to just look past all the BS that's going on with it and just watch the game. But people are like, how can you be a veteran and running a nonprofit and still supporting the NFL? Like it's my right to.
We fought for.
It's their right to kneel down during the national anthem. It's my right to watch the game. Like you can't pick and choose what is freedom of speech. It's freedom of speech unless you're a liberal, but it's unless you're a Republican, but it's a touchy subject because there are a lot of triggered veterans out there too. I mean, it doesn't take much to trigger veterans either. Yeah, that's just our delicate state sometimes, or something that means so much to us that we're so passionate about. Of course, we're gonna, again, when I was talking about like these obstacles, when we're ambushed, we don't just nonchalantly engage in ambush. No, it's balls out rage, as my doctor says, motherfucking rage. That's how we adapt to something. So a veteran sees something going on, of course he's going to get a little triggered and blow his mind. That's a bad word to use, but he's gonna go overboard with his reaction.
That's okay. That's fair. All right. Well, off to the maybe let's get to the. I'm curious. One of these questions. What made you? I'm going to start with you. What made you want to enlist? What was that? That's a big thing.
Judge.
I was originally in college. When all through high school, I went through a dental assistant course, and then I went through a dental technician course. I was grooming to become a dentist. Okay. Junior and senior year, I was a dental technician. I used to make crown and bridge and dentures and stuff like that. And I was in college. I was going to be a dentist, and then I found out that the high suicide rate for dentists, so I became a Marine.
And now you got a organization that helps the Marines.
But my buddy joined the Marines, and he said, dude, if you join the Marines, you get out, they'll pay for your college. I was like, all right, cool, why not? I joined in November 2000, before 9/11. So I told the recruiter, I need to learn something I'm not going to learn in college. I'm dropping out. I'm going to be a dentist, make $200,000 a year. He said, well, why don't you be a cryptolinguist? I'm like, what's that? And I said, we're going to teach you a language. You're going to listen to radios and translate. And it's like, so spy? And he's like, yeah. So I signed up. I actually signed up to be a Russian linguist. And when I got the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, I learned Arabic.
Wow.
And I was in Arabic for roughly, 13, 14 weeks. And 9/11 happened. And that's when I figured out why I was learning Arabic. And that's when I also knew that my life was going to change. And I found myself later on learning how to drive a truck in Motor T. And I was with Jason, not together, but we were there for the invasion as well. But it was more or less, I was a punk ass kid. 21. I was 20 years old when I joined. I didn't ship off until I was 21. But I just had no guidance, other than trying to go to college. I needed a challenge. I was fighting with the girl that I eventually ended up marrying. So I guess you could say I joined the Marine Corps because of a girl. I had to get out of Toms River, New Jersey.
So why did you enlist?
Same girl. Sorry, Jamie. I can't pinpoint it. But I remember one day, I think it was junior year of high school. I always liked the Marine Corps. I don't know why. My parents are from Argentina, first one born in my family here in the United States, but always I did well in school, not tremendous, but I didn't apply myself like I should. I did what I wanted to do. And for some reason, the Marine Corps, I've always had them in the back of my mind. Junior year, I remember sitting in class and this girl behind me, she wanted to go into the Air Force. And again, I was playing soccer, Argentine, and first team All-State, and got some offers and this, that, and I said, I'm like, you really thinking of going to the Air Force? She's like, yeah, I want to go to the Air Force. I'm like, cool. I'm like, and I think her father was a Marine, maybe. And I'm like, I think I want to go to the Marine Corps. She's like, dude, that's badass. My dad won't let me go, or something like that. And ever since then, I remember that was the day that I decided, I'm like, screw it, whatever. B's are good enough for me. I did better than my sister, who got a full educational scholarship to American University on my SATs, and but I did it through, my parents signed away at 17 years old to go to boot camp. I wasn't 18 yet, my senior year, but I did it. It's called the Delayed Entry Program, where you sign up, you're a number now, you're in the system, you get your MOS, your military occupational specialty, which I chose. I said, if I'm going to do it all the way. And that's one thing about me my whole life was, if you're going to do it, go balls to the wall. Like, if you're going to join the military, go to Marine Corps. If you're going to join the Marine Corps, be infantry. I decided to be an 0331 machine gunner. And then I tried college. I said, I don't know. They're like, oh, do you want to do officer, this, that, the other thing? I said, let me try college for a little bit. So I did that program for practically a year. So I said, and then maybe I can switch over if I wanted to become an officer or whatnot. But college wasn't for me. I took a couple classes and screwed around with criminal justice and screwed around with architectural classes and construction management classes and a couple different, two different schools. But I said, nah, I'm good to go. And ever since then, I stayed in the reserves, and 9/11 happened, got stop-lost, went to Iraq, and every Marine has that regret and says, I should have stayed in the 20. I would have been a gunny. I was first sergeant, got out. Yeah. But
I would have retired last year.
Yeah.
Well, my wife says, you could have probably been dead too.
Right.
I mean, there's always that risk.
Yeah. But I just always, the Marine Corps was just something that drew me, and I can't tell you when or where, but I remember that conversation vividly. So, Nicole Maragliata, if you're listening.
What was it like? I don't remember if you said that were you in when 9/11 happened?
Yeah, I was in the reserves.
What was that like for both of you? I mean, I could imagine that was just some crazy shit.
I was in California. It was 7:30 in the morning or something like that. We were in formation, and I remember it was chilly. It was always cold in Monterey, and then like 12 o'clock, the fog burnt off and it was hot, and then I remember running inside to go get my Gore-Tex, and to get to where my room was, we went by one of the common areas, and they had a big-ass TV there, and I saw the towers were on fire, and I was like, oh crap. And they're like, what happened? I'm like, what happened? They're like, oh, a plane flew in there. And I was like, oh, Newark Airport, LaGuardia, they're all over the place there. Maybe a plane just flew into the building. And as I said that, the second plane flew into the building. I saw it live, and I was like, yo, twice? And then that's all of a sudden, like, all the Presidio at that point was like a college. There was no gates. Civilians could drive right through the Presidio at all times. And they called us to arms. We had rubber rifles. They put all the Marines at the gates. We had rubber rifles. They looked real, but we had to check all the IDs, make sure they were military coming in, and we were on call. And I remember trying to call home to New Jersey, and I couldn't call home for like a day or two.
What was that feeling like being in there? Was it because I remember my mom told me that she felt like it was like the end of the world. She said that it was just
we're a little brainwashed. We were all like, "Fuck yeah, it's time to go to war."
Really
like,
game time.
Yeah, I mean, they basically told us, "Hey, you guys are gonna miss the war. Let's go. You could stay here and graduate, or we'll reclass you, and you'll get to go get some." And I raised my hand. That's why I went to Motor T. I mean, I wasn't doing that well anyway, but I would have probably stayed and finished out. But I knew enough Arabic to get me through both my tours. But I was mainly a motor transport. I drove trucks, and I was used at checkpoints and stuff like that. But yeah, 9/11 was just more or less of a the space-time continuum. When think about Back to the Future, we went to the other 1985 where Biff was the millionaire.
Yeah,
that's when 9/11 happened and my life changed.
That was the big turning point because you said that's what got you to go to war, basically, right?
Yeah.
That was your first stint of going back to or going to war.
We were afraid that we were going to miss the war. We're all about medals and ribbons and shit like that, and the Gulf War was only 118 days or 181 days, so we thought that was the case. Arabic school 63 weeks. I would have been there over a year. I would have probably missed the war. Looking back now, I could have probably still made it, but we just I'll go. There was like 50 of us. We all just said screw it, we're out.
Now, I guess this is for both of you. Do you guys regret that excitement, or are you guys happy? Because I remember.
Hell no. You go to Marine boot camp, you're stripped of everything what you think you are to become a killer. There's still not a time. I'm 42 years old, fat and overweight, and I still walk into a bar and see how many guys I can kick their asses and which ones I need Jay to help me out with or something like that.
We should fight right now.
We're just. Marines are just a different breed, and it shows in our training, where there's a brotherhood. I mean, there's a brotherhood amongst the entire military. I get along with Army and Air Force, and
that's another thing I want to mention because he touched on it also is Ma Deuce Deuce isn't about Marine Corps. We have Navy,
just happens that it was founded by Marines.
Yeah. We have Army.
It's about the military.
Navy. Yeah, it's about
general.
the military.
It's all wars too. Like people will be like, "Oh, is it only for Iraq?" No, like we hang out with. We brought a Korean War veteran like 3 years ago to a baseball game, and like it meant he was in his wheelchair barely. I had such a great time with him though.
Really?
Like it's about all wars, all veterans, all sexes. We got people that we hung out that never even left.
Well, two sexes.
Two sexes.
Okay, thanks.
But like we had a guy that was hanging out with us, never deployed to Iraq. And we still hung out with him, and he was a toe tag counter. And I was like, what? You don't think you learning about
toe
all
tag
these
counter?
deaths?
Think about that.
He had to count how many people were coming off the plane dead in Germany.
Wow.
And I was like, you don't think that's gonna fuck with your psyche right now? Like,
seeing that many, wow, that's
not only is it sad, but what about the survivors? How come I'm not over there?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in Germany. Why not? So it's an all-inclusive nonprofit to any vet, even if you just served. There's guys that say, "Oh, I never served. Can I still go to a baseball game?" Fuck yeah, you can. You stood on. You signed up. It's you signed that contract. You're good with us.
And that's what I like about organizations like yours, because I know that there are a lot of organizations in general that, like, when you go to the fucking store and they're like, "Hey, do you want to donate $1?" And I start thinking in my head, I'm like, I feel like a lot of these organizations don't give money to who they're supposed to be giving to. And then I like, organizations like yours. And I forgot my dad did one for the Henry Snyder Foundation a few years ago as well. And it's like all of these we know help out the vets. It's not like we're
no one on
giving
my board collects a paycheck. This is all voluntarily.
Awesome.
Do I pay for a tank of gas every once in a while, or have I bought myself a meal while hanging out with a vet? Yeah, of course I have. That's part of our overhead. We have this amazing truck. I would have brought it up here, but it would have been a pain in the ass. But we have this F-350. It's actually owned by my brother-in-law, and everything on it was basically paid by him. A lot of people see that truck and they're like, well, if I'm giving $100, is that going into the truck? Like, no, this is maintained privately by myself or
donations,
my brother-in-law, or sponsorships. We have stuff that we have a wrap. The wrap was $3,500, and P&G Landscaping wrote me a check for $3,500
So
to make
good
sure
at sneaking shit in, bro.
That's
I'm good about dropping those those spots.
That's my big thing when it comes to donating stuff. Is I like mostly donating to veteran stuff, and I like knowing that the money and organizations actually going to.
And the big
help.
organizations do a lot of good things. You know, people always want to bring up Wounded Warrior Project. I mean, they do a lot of great things, but. I know. I feel better knowing donating $100 to Madhu's Deuce or Recalibrate or Black Hawk Bob Foundation. That $100 is going into the organization.
Vet Rest is another good organization. That's that I believe that your father's golf outing coming up is going to be donating to. I believe that's Vet Rest. Right?
Yeah, because if anybody doesn't know, my dad does a golf outing called the Henry Snyder Foundation. Yep. It's in support of veterans. Every year we do a different charity. We give all the proceedings to the charity, and it's
a New Jersey 501c charity, and this year it's Vet Rest, and I forget who it was last year, but I mean it's just.
Hey, but next year I know this awesome organization that would love to come up and play some golf.
100%. We're always to the next one.
Madhu's Deuce donates to the Tricky Tray, and
I put almost all mine in that one last year. Yeah. All the military stuff, like another one that I don't know if they're a charity or not, but I really like the Black Rifle Coffee one.
Oh, he does.
They're so cool.
They have there is a branch of Matt Best, right? Yeah. That's his name. Yeah, they do have a charitable side. A lot of these like Grunt Style used to. Nine Line has a big nonprofit following. We did an event with Nine Line, and they actually donated a crap load of their own shirts, and we got to sell them for free, or not for free, but for a profit. There's a lot of organization out there, and like I said, like Wounded Warrior Project does a lot of amazing things. It's just when you gotta look at that overhead number, make sure your $100 counts.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing when it comes to donating to stuff. One of my other questions that I had for you guys on here was how is basic because whenever you think of basic training as a I guess a civilian, you're thinking it's like the baddest motherfuckers. Now, how hard is basic training? Is that like is it a shock? Like, is it just like you said? I
was lucky because in high school, one of the guys I looked up to was going into the Marine Corps, and his father in my town was, I believe at the time, a gunny or a first sergeant during the Gulf War. He was Sergeant Major Marine Corps, retired now, and he was actually my first sergeant. My first sergeant niece, Sergeant Major niece. And so I had a couple of friends that went in before me. One of my high school girlfriends, her brother went in, who's a cop right in the town that I live in now. So I had a couple pieces of advice, and the best piece of advice I got going into boot camp was from Sergeant Major niece, and he said, just understand one thing. They're just like you. They're going to yell. They're going to do stupid things. They're just like you. Because like Rocky, where you think they're machines because you just get off the bus and it's a shock and everything. And I don't know why, but I remember, everyone remembers stepping off the bus and onto those footprints. But I remember sitting back in my chair and just saying, in my bus seat, where they drive you up to Paris Island, and they're like, get the fuck off my bus, and you hear these voices like frogs, like you've never heard, and you're like, just Jesus, it's always in the middle of the night. I remember just sort of hearing him in the back of my mind saying, they put their pants on just like you do. You're gonna do it a lot faster than you do, but they're just human.
Yeah. And
like Rocky, like he's not a machine, And I just had that easy feeling of, you're human. You're not gonna kill me. You need me. It costs too much money to kill me. So I had that going through boot camp. Yes, is it rough? Hell yeah. Not as rough as our Vietnam and all that other shit, where they were just, but you still have your incidences and your fights, and
I was recruit giggles. I had no bearing. So for the first 6 weeks, anytime someone farted or the drill instructor said something funny, I'd laugh.
Who the hell said that?
And I'd be up on the quarterdeck. I mean, I could do push-ups until you sweat. That was the point. But I learned not to take, don't take anything personal. I was there for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's and the Super Bowl. And I remember Christmas, they woke us up. No, New Year's, they woke us up at midnight, and we had to do 100 push-ups at midnight. And I remember being like all pissed off because you could tell one of the drill instructors was drunk, and you could see the painted fingernails sticking through the little blinds. They had their girlfriends in there to show off. And on Christmas, our senior's your daddy. You know, senior takes care of you. And we watched. I was 1st Battalion.
Third battalion, third.
So they brought out a TV and we watched The Patriot, and there was this Foot Locker. Anytime someone got food sent to them, you're not allowed to eat it. You just got thrown in this Foot Locker. Well, senior comes and pulls this Foot Locker out, and it's just full of junk food. So we're sitting here eating junk food, watching The Patriot. The movie's over. He goes home, and now here comes our heavy. And he's just like, good. You guys want to be all freaking nasty? Go get your canteens. And we drank a gallon of water, 2 quart. Was it 4 quarts? Yeah. So I remember drinking the second one, and I had to throw up. And we're running to the bathroom, and I'm puking into the toilet. And while I'm puking, I'm like, it's fucking Christmas. But yeah, I mean, I just remember, I was done in February, and I can remember just feeling you're walking a little taller. You're cocky. You're cocky, but you're humble, and you know how to kill somebody now. Like. You always had that. I was never a real fighter. I'm not an aggressive person. I may look aggressive or intimidating, but my mouth gets me out of everything. I make someone laugh, and the.
What else do you do? Anyway, my everyone recalls like 1 or 2 stories from boot camp, and mine was when you are shaving every morning or whenever you're shaving. What we used to do is you line up on one side, the squad day. Everyone has their razor in their hand. There's about 10 sinks in the head. And you just go dip your thing in, dry shave, dip it in the next one, dry shave, until you're done. And you splash water on your face, and you come out. There's a mug jug. It's like a pickle jar like this big. Did you have that? There's a mug. It's 3rd Battalion, baby. Anyway, it's like a big pickle jar with aqua velva, alcohol, probably some Tabasco sauce and stuff like that. Just blue. It's called a mug jug. You dip your hands in there, and you just go like this, and it just stings. Especially the dark green Marines with the razor bumps and stuff like that, and it just kills. So one day, this kid from Chicago got slammed on the quarterdeck, and they're like, he was a gang member, and actually he was one of the people that I was told that the judge told him to go there. Yeah. Either that or you're going to jail. So he did, and the drill instructor just said, start doing mountain climbers till I'm tired. And he goes in his hatch and he closes the door. And so we're all cleaning our weapons, this, that, the other thing. We don't got to yell at this, that. All of a sudden, this motherfucker stands up at attention. And we're like, what the hell is he doing? And the drill instructor, like 5 minutes later, comes out. And he goes, what the hell what are you doing? He said, until I'm tired. He goes, I told you to do mountain climbers till I'm tired. He goes, this recruit's reached the top of the mountain. The drill instructor came. It was at night. Took the mug jug. Completely fucking slammed it on the ground. Glass everywhere. He goes, now you're doing. This motherfucker
on the fucking glass?
On the glass. Got down, started doing them. The one thing you look out for in boot camp is who? That your drill instructors tell you then? Smokies. They're the guys in charge to make sure nothing like this happens. And you're always supposed to announce it if you see them anywhere. Smoking on deck or something like that. So the drill instructors know to behave a little bit. All of a sudden we see the Smokey come through the back of the hatch. Never saw a drill instructor again in my life.
Holy shit.
The kid got up, blood all over his hands, feet, but he got down and started doing mountain climbers.
That's the crazy thing is they
glass.
fucking get you to do like normal people would be like, I'm not doing that.
Let me tell you real quick, one last thing about the boot camp and we'll move on to fun stuff maybe. I teach my kids that everything that I tell them is for a reason. And that's what I also learned in boot camp. You're going to do stupid shit. You're not going to know why. We used to go to the chow hall. We used to have to carry our cups. How? Like this. No. We're third. We used to carry it like this.
We did it because of our rifles.
Oh, okay. Everyone for a different reason. We used to carry it like this. And if you had it like this, you used to get thrashed right then and there. And we're like, what the fuck? Who cares? There's people that
carry the grenades, right?
Didn't know why. Up until third phase, when we get to the grenade range, they're like this. They're like, everyone carry the grenade like you carried your cups the last 18
Why
weeks.
did you do that?
Because you don't want to fucking drop the thing and kill someone.
That's fair.
So
that's
your
fair
body
fucking
is
reason.
like this, and you're like this until you get to the range till you get to your hole. You pull the pin. You're still carrying it like this, because any schmuckatelli is going to hear the explosion from over there and drop it.
Yeah.
Pin might be out. And body reflexes, that we did everything for a reason.
Everything has a reason.
Marching, running, doing whatever. Chaos. They create chaos. So when you're in combat, you can deal with that pressure of people yelling, people dying, people getting blown up. 15 different orders from 15 different people coming in different directions, and you have to decipher. The big thing in the Marine Corps is left, right, or middle, but do something.
Yeah.
Left or right, don't just stand there.
Every time we sit down, you have to sit Indian style, and they'll be like, if you're
Left hand,
left-handed,
left hand, right hand.
your left foot is going to be over your right. If you're right-handed, your right foot is over your left. Why? Get to the rifle range, you have to sit Indian style, and since I'm left-handed,
Oh shit!
now my legs are I've been doing it for
Weeks
now,
months.
so now my hamstrings are all nice and stretched out, and I'm comfortable sitting Indian style,
Yeah.
and I can get real down, real low,
And your elbows are supported.
and I'm all versus if I just started doing it, I'd be all taut. And
So everything was done
Everything
for
has
a
a reason.
reason.
That's cool as hell. I mean, like, even through all that pain, they still have a direction. That's what's cool.
Yeah, it's not that they're just crazy.
there's a
assholes.
method
Yeah.
to every madness, and that's what I mean. Like, don't take it personal. You're learning something for a reason. And when you leave there, I mean, I remember going up to my heavy, who I hated. I remember going after graduation. I personally went up to him and shook his hand. And I was like, I just want to thank you for being a perfectionist. And he's like, I'm just doing my job. And I'm like, yeah, but you taught me to be a better Marine, to always want to apply my best. It could have been one thing if I went to like 3rd Battalion and didn't do my best.
So now because when I was a kid, it was crazy. Because when I was a kid, one of my big things, I was like fucking like 10 years old. I was like, I want to be a Navy SEAL. And I used to say a kid when I was a kid all the fucking time. And then I found out, I couldn't join or anything because of the mental illness, because they changed it, I guess, or whatever, now that they really know because of medical stuff. But because you read about, like, I'm just hearing basic training, and to me that seems insane. How is it? And I'm reading David Goggins' book, and I'm reading about how he fucking went through
Can't Hurt Me. Oh, that's an amazing book.
Incredible book. I'm almost done with, dude. Going through that 3 times is fucking insane. But how do you guys view the special forces guys? Because basic training
They're
sounds
just
hard.
different animals. They're,
Like,
they're different humans.
We need heroes. The Army needs
Army has
heroes.
us.
Yeah, they have us, and we have the SEALs.
So are they just like? You've obviously met Navy SEAls. Like, I don't think I've ever met one. Like, what is?
Dude, they're smaller than you.
really.
Not about size.
All the SEAls, many of the SEAls that I've ever met, they're little guys.
What's their mentality like, though?
It's business. It's business.
I'm gonna fuck up everything that I can see.
Even outside of, like,
Yeah, but every SEAL that I know, though, they're perfect at everything, though. Like
Really?
they just, that's their regime. They wake up, they work out, they do, and you do everything to the full extent every single time.
They're just different. They're a different breed of human. A kid I grew up with, and he was, and he's almost about to get out. He's in charge of 7th SF Special Forces down in Florida. He was in charge of, I believe, Afghanistan and South America. Special Forces getting dropped off 30 days, 40 days beyond. And I grew up with this kid. Probably used to beat the shit out of him, picked on him. Shorter than me. He was a stocky kid. I hung out with them one day in Florida when I was down there with the family. I met up with him, and it was his wife's birthday, and hung out with him and his team and their girlfriends and wives and stuff like that. And it's just, they live the life. We were at a bar club at a resort down in Florida, in Destin, Florida. It was his wife's birthday. They came up, and he's like, "Oh, why don't you come out and hang out with the team?" I'm like, "All right." And it was literally like the movies. Like, you have the short little guy. I'm like, "Who's that guy over there?" He's like, "That guy? He's our doc. He'll probably perform open heart surgery with a pen and a rope." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, this huge dude, like 5-10 meters away from him, 10 feet away from him, hanging out, dancing, having drinks. And then I realized they formed the perimeter. Okay? And people that walk through, they would like squeeze the perimeter a little bit, be like, and start dancing a little bit with their wives and crap like that, and then everyone would leave and stuff like that. And I asked him one day, and I'm like, "Who's that guy?" He's like, "Dude, that guy will lift a Volkswagen for you and carry it 300 yards if you want him to." I'm like, "What the?" And I'm like, and that guy, he's like, "Oh, that guy is our radio guy." He goes, he'll set up a satellite communication tower out of like a Dixie cup and like some water. And I'm like, "Are you serious?" And it's just, they live and breathe. But I went to their base, and I got to see a lot of stuff, and it's just like you see in the TV shows. Office, they each got their cubicle, they each got their folders with their HVTs, their high value targets, where they're going next month, where they're getting dropped off, studying, and it's just a different They're not loud. They're not obnoxious. I asked him, I'm like, do you guys ever like get into fights when you go out? And he's like, not really. He goes, we don't talk much. He goes, but one day he told me that the Hells Angels came up to him.
Oh, shit.
At a bar.
That must have went well.
Him and his boys, totally knew who they were. Because they, not too many tats on them and stuff like that. But they started talking. He's like, yeah, me and my boys are hanging out. We just came back from deployment. So one of their guys came up to him and said, you guys want to go outside and roll for a little while? He's like, yeah, but there's only 5 of these. He goes, yes, sir. Bring 10 out to the Hells Angels. They came out. They rolled. Did what they had to do. 20 minutes later, they're all inside, all bloody, all fucked up, doing shots together.
Like, that's cool as shit.
Yeah, it was dope. I'm like, I get into fights with bouncers at Jenkinson's, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. This guy's rolling, and then he's getting challenged, and he's like, I got some, they had, what do they call the guys looking to get in, not probies, patches, no.
Prospects.
Prospects. He goes, I got a couple prospects, want to see where they stand. He's like, no problem. He goes, just make sure you got 2 for 1. And they went and rolled, and it was pretty dope. That story.
The thing that I heard when I was reading the David Goggins book, the thing that kind of shook me a little bit, like the Hell Week was obviously the crazy part to me, but the thing in Hell Week that fucked me up when I thought about it was when the guy came back in and they were like, yeah, he died. Like, there was a guy, I guess, who they were doing, he had he froze or something like that. They were doing like an underwater thing, and he got so cold he was sitting up, and he went into hypothermia or whatever, and he just died. And then they bring him into a classroom, and they're like, yeah, so and so is dead. And then they were just like, on to the next phase. Like, it's so, like you said, like goal oriented. It's like to the extra.
It's like a quarterback in football. If you played football for very good teams, and it's like a quarterback, a good quarterback. He forgets about the interception.
Yeah,
he forgets about that last interception, and he's studying. You look at the great quarterbacks; they'll throw a pick 6 in the Super Bowl. What are they doing next? They're studying the play. What I do wrong?
To the next.
What I do wrong? On to the next thing.
Yeah,
how can I do better the next time I'm on the field? So
that's awesome. All right. I know you gotta do the baseball thing. Are you going to that as well? To the baseball thing today?
I don't need. I gotta.
He's got to check with my girlfriend at home.
Yeah, I gotta check.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank my guests for coming on today. Remember to support Ma Deuce Deuce, awesome organization.
Remember the Henry Snyder Foundation also is holding a golf outing coming up.
Yes, June 17th.
June 17th.
June 17th.
So if you need any information, hit us up.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. This was fucking awesome. Thank you so much, guys. All right.
Semper Fi.
Remember to subscribe to the channel, guys. Thank you to my guests. I'll see you guys next time.
Let's get our drink on.